Good afternoon. Welcome to the Day 2, Session 4 of Decoding the Idea of Pakistan conference. The theme of the session is Pakistan's Baloch dilemma, insurgency, and civil rights movement. It's my honor to introduce the esteemed speakers of the session. Major General Shashi Asthana, Mr. Aditya Raj Kaul, Mr. Hakeem Wadhela, Mr. Bursin Wakmar, Mr. Reza Hossain Bor, Mr. Lalita Ambardar, and Mohim Baloch Sarkhosh. With this, I have the honor of introducing the session chair, Major General S.B. Asthana SM VSM PhD. Major General Asthana is globally acknowledged strategic and security analyst. He holds a PhD from Jawaharlal Nehru University and has authored over 450 publications. He is a veteran infantry general with 45 years of experience at national and varied international fields and United Nations. He has served as the former Director General Infantry of Indian Army and is currently the Director Courses at the United Service Institutions of India, the oldest think tank of India, conducting the largest online and correspondence course for Indian military officers since last 10 years. He is a prominent TV commentator, having participated in over 3,000 TV shows globally and a frequent speaker at various strategic military forums, united organizations, think tanks, and universities. He has been awarded twice by the President of India, twice by the United Nations, and has received CEE Excellence Award for Nation Building from the Governor of Haryana. He also has been honored twice for international diplomacy and global conflict resolution by IOED, a consultative body of ECOSOC, as well as by the International Police Commission India and former Prime Minister of Moldova. Before I hand over the floor to session chair, I request all the audience to kindly turn off their microphones. You may post your questions in chat box, which will be addressed during the Q&A session. Sir, the floor is all yours.
Thank you for the introduction. Distinguished guests, speakers, the team of Indic Research Forum, ladies and gentlemen. I must thank Indic Research Forum for giving me an opportunity to interact with the brilliant minds and speakers and eminent panelists on the subject, which is the decoding the idea of Pakistan, which is most relevant in the scenario in which we are today, where India is evaluating responses for a dastardly attack, a terror attack sponsored by Pakistan. Now, many speakers have spoken in yesterday, and I suppose a lot of, I would say, thoughts about two-nation theories, what Pakistan Army and ISI is doing or not doing, and similarly, what are the ways of war of theirs. But most of the discussions, as I can make out from the subject, has been from the external point of view as to whatever they did externally. Now, today's session, we have the team of specialists who are going to decode as to how it behaves internally with its provinces. So, decoding Pakistan's Baloch dilemma, insurgency, and civil rights movements. Now, I am not very comfortable with the word insurgency because it can well be replaced by freedom movement. Now, before I invite the eminent speakers to share their views, for the viewers, let me put some context. Balochistan, forcibly occupied in 1948, has 43.6% of the land mass of Pakistan and only 3.6% of population, which used to be 5.1% of population before it was deliberately reduced by Pakistan in stages through their atrocities. Balochis are not only in Pakistan, 70% of them are in Balochistan, which is held by Pakistan, and they are also there in Iran and Afghanistan. It's a tale, or sad tale, of the atrocities of people of Balochistan as well as Khyber Pakhtunkhwa fighting for freedom, marked with disappearances, mass graves, rapes, atrocities, etc., etc. The scene is no different than what it used to be in Bangladesh, or now Bangladesh, in East Pakistan at some point of time. And certainly there are freedom movements which are there. Now, we live in a world which claims to be committed to human rights and justice, but Balochistan crisis has remained as one of the most underreported and under-addressed issue in South Asia. The complexity of issues spans borders, decades, dimensions, with many unexplored and uncomfortable truths of suffering and discrimination, instability, and global indifferences. This session is not only an academic exercise, but a moral imperative. Let's endeavor through facts, empathy, and honest discourse to contribute our bit to a future where the rights and dignity of Baloch people are recognized and restored. We have a very brilliant panel of speakers, and before moving on to the first speaker, let me just add a word line to say Balochistan has seen 7 decades of insurgency, and which I call it freedom movement, and is looking for freedom. So to put us wise on this context, on this subject, we have Mr. Aditya Kaul. He's the executive editor of TV9 Network, a renowned journalist, instrumental in launching News 9 Plus, which is a famous TV show that is, and also the India's first OTT platform for new documentaries, as well as the satellite news station News 9. He has been awarded by prestigious Ram Jethmalani Journalism Award, has organized global summits, even anchoring Prime Minister of India and various global leaders. So over to you, Aditya.
Thank you very much, Major Asthana, and of course the Indic Research Forum for having this, every few months, this very important exercise of brainstorming and trying to analyze how the situation is, especially when it comes to conflict within Pakistan and conflict that Pakistan is instigating within its country and outside its country. It's a very important topic, decoding the idea of Pakistan. And this comes at a time, I'm sure when the organizers had, thought of organizing this, they had never imagined that we would be in a situation similar to what we were in Feb of 2019. And India is contemplating military, kinetic, and other measures against Pakistan at this time. And tensions are running high, as are emotions on both sides. Balochistan has been suffering for last several decades. The roots of this entire conflict, or I would say terrorism, that Pakistan has unleashed on the Baloch citizens has roots in 1948, when there was a forced accession of Balochistan. The Khan of Kalat, the ruler of Kalat, wanted independence. Most of the tribes in Balochistan wanted independence. They wanted their own state. They have nothing in common with the rest of Pakistan or any of the other provinces of Pakistan, and yet they were forcibly occupied. There were several of these movements within Balochistan, if I'm not wrong, in the early 50s and in the mid 70s, where demands of freedom were made, where several protests were held, and there was pressure applied on Pakistan to give freedom. And in the early 2000s, this led to a major rebel movement, a major freedom struggle within Balochistan, trying to expose the Pakistani deep state and their nefarious designs against the common civilians of Balochistan, and also the reality of the situation of how Pakistan wants to exploit the natural resources of Balochistan, of Godar, of Sui, of several other areas within Balochistan, and create it slowly into a Chinese colony. When we speak about Balochistan, when we speak about history of Balochistan, one cannot forget the ultimate highest sacrifice of Nawab Akbar Bugti, of Balich Mari in 2006, 2007, when they were forcefully killed, illegally killed by the Pakistani military. And the former Pakistan Army chief, Parvez Musharraf, had blood on his hands. the entire operation that was conducted in Kolu, is a painful reminder of how a peaceful struggle of the various tribes of Balochistan, or the civilians of Balochistan, was forcefully tried to crush by the Pakistan Army, Pakistan ISI, and various other agents of the state. Today, we are in a situation where this has led to a very big armed struggle, which is visible in front of the entire globe. Often, the Pakistani government, the Pakistani state, blames India, blames Afghanistan of, so-called support to the Baloch rebels. Why would Baloch rebels need support when their own struggle is so indigenous and they do not identify themselves with any other province, any other, ethnicity of Pakistan? So it's important to understand that be it the Bukti tribe, be it the Mengals, be it the Murray, they are they have a multi-pronged strategy. One of a peaceful struggle, a peaceful protest that is happening not just within Balochistan, but also in several other global capitals for years together. And on the other hand, an armed struggle led by several other groups, including the BLA, which is now launching attacks, particularly against the Pakistan Army and the Pakistani deep state and the ISI, and of course the Frontier Corps and various militias of the Pakistani deep state operating within Balochistan. It's important to also make the larger world and researchers who are studying the Pakistani conflict understand that there is a huge difference between the terror groups that are safely sheltered, nurtured in the backyard of Pakistan, and groups like BLA and others. Yes, killing people is not justified and violence is not justified. But when you crush people, when you do not give them fundamental rights, when you do not, let them survive on their own, rights and duties and etc. that are granted by the so-called constitution, then of course, what other way do those people have but to pick up the gun? So we need to understand that at this particular moment, as we are speaking, there is a massive protest underway for last several weeks by the Balochistan Yakjehti committee, which is led by Mahrang Baloch. And just a few weeks ago, Mahrang Baloch and several other leaders, including Sami Baloch and others, were forcefully arrested by the Pakistani state and are locked up inside a prison right now. This is another strategy to scuttle the entire justified movement of the Baloch people. Mahrang Baloch, along with several others, are now having a hunger strike inside the Pakistani prison. There have been several attempts made to crush Mahrang Baloch as well. She was being awarded in New York, if I'm not wrong, and on her way to the airport, when she was told that she cannot exit Pakistan. And when she left the airport on way to Balochistan, along with another friend of hers, she was stopped by the ISI. Her passport and phone were taken. And in midnight, on a dark street, her car was taken away and they were left alone on that particular street. This is the strategy of Pakistan to crush women leaders who do not fear them, who do not fear the Pakistan Army Chief Asim Munir or any of the other people who are threatening them continuously. So as of now, I think in the last 3 years in particular, I've seen a trend of this uprising gaining massive momentum. Even yesterday, there's been a huge attack at a highway in Quetta, where at least 10 personnel of the Pakistan Army have been killed in an IED. And of course, one cannot, speak more about the Jafar Express attack or the kidnapping that happened, where an entire train was abducted by the Baloch rebels, and it made global headlines all across. And one of the reasons that the Pahalgam terror attack took place, according to the Pakistan media and Pakistani analysts, is because of the so-called Jafar Express attacks, because the Pakistani state blames India for it. How long will the Pakistani state remain in denial or continue with this propaganda is anybody's guess. When the Pulwama terror attack happened, we had imagined that after Balakot, There will be changes, there will be a strong message, and Pakistan will think twice before acting again. But one needs to understand that it is in the DNA of the Pakistan army and the deep state to conduct terror attacks, be it against innocent Kashmiris and security forces and civilians in India's Jammu and Kashmir, or be it their so-called own citizens. They call them own citizens, they are not, in Balochistan or in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa or in Karachi and other places. So that's why the Baloch people today are not just suffering, but they're exhausted. They're losing their patience. And that's why now we see over the last few years, women, Baloch women who are educated, who have kids, who have a family, who have a future, coming out and becoming suicide bombers. Imagine what's happening in Balochistan. And they're targeting especially not just the Pakistani forces, but also Chinese engineers and Chinese infrastructure agents in that entire region. I think back in 2022, I went on a mission to make a documentary series on Balochistan titled Balochistan Bangladesh 2.0 question mark. I couldn't go to Balochistan because, as you all know, that the international media is banned from going to Balochistan and reporting facts, as is the case with Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, as is the case with many other areas within Pakistan. You cannot move an inch until you have a permission from the Pakistani army, or if you are paid by the Pakistan army, then of course you can go anywhere. So I made a documentary by hiring a team in Balochistan, and the former ISPR chief Asif Ghafoor was the corps commander of Quetta at that particular time. Under his nose, I hired a team in Balochistan who went all across from Gwadar to Sui to Turbat to, of course, Quetta and other places, and made this documentary. And we had a series of documentaries over a few months. It was a 3-part series that I made. And what the Pakistani government did was, one, to write to Twitter and ask them to ban my account and delete the documentary because I was a criminal in their eyes, not a journalist expressing the reality of Balochistan. And of course, the Federal Investigative Agency (FIA) of Balochistan filed an FIR against me for making that documentary, exposing facts of Balochistan. And this is what Balochistan has done over the years. So it's very important that we speak up. I also want to refer here to what happened back in 2016. And I've been, covering Balochistan very closely only for the last 8 to 10 years, I must admit. But in 2016, from the ramparts of the Red Fort, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, for the first time, spoke about Balochistan. He spoke about the pain, the anguish, and the torture and the human rights abuses that the Baloch civilians were suffering. But within India, within Indian government, within the Indian system, we tend to also forget things very soon. So after that 2016 episode, there were a lot of expectations in the Baloch people, especially Baloch people living in exile in Europe, in US, in South Korea, in Australia, and several other areas. They even applied for refuge in India. Now, I'm not saying that you blindly give refuge to Baloch people, but at least there needs to be a strategy to support a just cause. And that is very significant and important. And even as we speak, I personally feel that the Baloch aggression, the Baloch rebels, and the Baloch freedom struggle is only going to further escalate and gain momentum. Of course, UN Human Rights Council often speaks about what's happening in Balochistan. There are activists from Balochistan who speak inside that. But why has the United Nations also failed to speak for Baloch people, to give them an audience, to actually pressurize Pakistan? And the Western countries can pressurize Pakistan to stop this behavior of creating Balochistan into the killing fields of the ISI and the Frontier Corps. I think it's high time that the global community needs to speak up for Balochistan and also tell the world of how the Chinese are creating Gwadar and a lot of other places within Pakistan as their colony, extracting natural resources. And when we know that the Baloch people have the first right to it. We, of course, know what has also happened to the CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, with a lot of propaganda, etc., a decade ago about CPEC, and now China is increasingly realizing the mistake, and of course getting no returns financially and otherwise on it. Now the Chinese or the Pakistanis may call each other iron brothers, but the reality is that there is no revenue coming out of it. It's a one-way street where the money is going. So there's an increasing realization within China as well that while for strategic reasons they stand with Pakistan and may continue to, but there is a growing frustration with what's happening on ground. Pakistan unable to provide security to Chinese engineers, Chinese teachers, or any Chinese citizens in Karachi, in Balochistan, in other places across Pakistan. So I think it's important for research forums like the Indic Forum and several other think tanks to speak about what's happening in Balochistan, because the media is not allowed to. The Pakistani media, whoever raises voice of Balochistan, I know one person, Taha Siddiqui, who had done so, and he was attacked. He was almost about to be killed when he fled Pakistan. So that is the situation down on ground in Pakistan. And I must, towards the end, before I end, tell you that it's very upsetting that the Western media often also ignores the plight of Balochistan. We do see some articles here and there forcefully in the Guardian or the Washington Post or BBC, but there is no greater coverage of how every single day the Pakistani army and the ISI is killing Baloch people, of how the Baloch are rising up, even though there are so many pressures that are involved. So the hypocrisy and the double standards of the Western press are also out and open. Lastly, I think the Western powers, especially the United States, needs to realize of how the Pakistani deep state has been bluffing them for years. From keeping Osama bin Laden in a shelter of the Pakistani army in Abbottabad, to keeping the Taliban for years together, giving them a safe shelter, and having snakes in their backyard, nurturing them for years together, and then expecting, of course, that the Taliban will work as the team B of the Pakistan army. But the same DGISI who mocked India from a hotel in Kabul with a cup of tea is today inside prison and has been court-martialed. This is the reality of Pakistan. Only the current Pakistan army chief decides the future course of Pakistan, nobody else. And he has the power to not just lock up Imran Khan, but do anything with the former army chiefs and ISI chiefs, or anybody for that matter, in the Pakistani state. There is no rule of law. The only rule is of the people sitting in Rawalpindi GHQ. So the Western powers need to realize that when the Afghan peace deal was happening, they were bluffed and they were fooled. And nobody will forget those embarrassing visuals of the US transport aircrafts leaving with the Afghans hanging on them. This is, I think, very embarrassing for the United States, more embarrassing from what happened in Vietnam. And in Pakistan, before US faces further embarrassment, it's important for them to realize that Pakistan deep state is a disease. It's a cancerous disease. And if you do not tackle them militarily and strategically, and of course financially and economically, then there will be consequences where not just India will suffer this terrorism, not just Afghanistan will suffer this terrorism, but I think the global community will. And a lot of terror attacks often that happen globally have their roots somehow or the other in Pakistan. So the Western powers need to recalibrate their strategy when it comes to Pakistan. I'm glad that Tulsi Gabbard made that statement that she stands with India when India goes to hunt down the terrorists behind the Pahalgam terror attack. I think on Balochistan as well, the US intelligence, the US diplomats need to have a strategy and communicate with Baloch leaders, be it Gullai Ismail, who is of course in US, or Mahrang Baloch, and now pressurize the Pakistani state to immediately, release Mahrang Baloch, Sami Baloch, and several others who have been forcefully captured and are suffering human rights violations inside the Pakistani prison. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aditya. I must say, a daring act of recording documentaries in Balochistan. very well appreciated, number one. And number two, as you rightly mentioned, uh, Pakistan's closeness made America fight Taliban for 20 years and after that hand over the power back to Taliban. And that is the kind of embarrassment which America carries. And that is why their own writers write why West is not winning any single war and what is wrong with their strategy. So thank you very much for enlightening us. We also have Mr. Hakeem Wadhela to put us wise on a peculiar question which we all want to hear or know about Dr. Mahrang Baloch's arrest and also the Baloch Yakjehti committee and Baloch resistance against Pakistan. He is a focal person for Baloch National Movement Foreign Department. He is representing Balochistan's case in international forum like United Nations, UK Parliament. He is also a renowned columnist highlighting the Balochistan crisis and Balochi's situation in various international forums. So over to you, Mr. Hakeem.
Thank you very much, Major. First of all, I really appreciate that you invited me and give me a chance to speak in this forum. So I thank you all. To begin with, I second what Aditya was saying about the situation in Balochistan. So I'll start with the recent incidents where the leader of Baloch Yakjehti Committee, Dr. Mahrang Baloch, Bibo Baloch, Samuddin Baloch, Bibagar Baloch, Sabghatullah Shaji was arrested. It was the around. It started from 19th of March up to like the 9th of April when they arrested Gulzadi Baloch as well. So it happened, according to the Pakistani state, in the aftermath of the Jafar Express attack. As we all know, the Baloch Liberation Army attacked the Jafar Express. It was in their custody for around 3 days. There was, hostage situation. And what come after that of that situation was that the Pakistani military statement establishment put a statement saying that the Pakistani state is going to be a hard state now, and by hard state, as the Baloch, as we have history with Pakistan, we knew that they're not going to target any militants, like they cannot face the Baloch Liberation Army, Balochistan Liberation Front in the battlefields or in the mountains of Balochistan, because anytime they try to face them on the battlefield, they are always defeated, and it is well documented and recorded, videos shared by those groups. But the topic in hand, the arrest of these activists. So the Pakistani military brought around 13 dead bodies in the Quetta hospital, and there were no identification of those bodies, and they claim that those bodies were of the attackers who attacked the Jafar Express, and then the bodies were buried in Quetta Kasi Kabristan without any identification, and they were buried in a rush because the bodies were unearthed the second days by, I think there were some dogs. They were like there. They were like, and they unearthed it, and the people who work in the graveyard, they saw the bodies. So the Baloch Yakjehti committee leader, Dr. Mahrang Baloch, there's another activist, Saida Baloch, who is also a victim. Her brother and I think a nephew is missing. They were protesting there. They were demanding to get the identification of those body, and they were asking those bodies to be handed over to the families. But what Pakistani state did was they arrested Saida Baloch. They arrested a member of the Kambrani family. They are also victim family. I think it was either Nausheen Kambrani who was arrested or her sister. And then a protest broke up across Balochistan, specifically in Quetta, which was led by Dr. Mahrang Baloch, and Bibo Baloch was also there. And uh, around 4:30 or 4 o'clock in the early morning, Pakistan, on the 22nd of March, Pakistani forces attacked. It was not just the police, but our informations are that the military intelligence personnel were involved and the Pakistani security personnel were involved in that attack on the protest, and they arrested those leaders during that protest. And once they were arrested, the Baloch Yakjehti Committee, which is a peaceful civil rights movement, which is a well-known, well-established movement in Balochistan and recognized internationally, as Aditya was mentioning about Dr. Maran Baloch, was going to New York to receive an award. She was listed in the Time magazine, 100 future leaders. Sammi Deen Baloch, awarded by the frontline defenders last year in Ireland. So the organization is well established and well known civil rights movement in Balochistan. And then once they arrested Dr. Marang Baloch, Bibo Baloch, Bibagar Baloch, a protest broke across Balochistan from Quetta to Karachi to Gwadar to Dalbandin to Noshki, Dera Bukti, any area of Balochistan you mentioned, people were on the streets, hundreds, somewhere in thousands, women, children, elderly. So to curb those protests, what Pakistani state did was they start straight firing on the protesters in Quetta. Around two young, I think they were like somewhere around 12 or 13-year-old boys were killed in Quetta protest. They did same in the Hub Chowki, which is an area near Karachi, which is the industrial area of Balochistan. The forces also opened fire on the protest in that area as well, where I believe one or two minor died and some other injured. And then they arrested Sammi Deen Baloch from Karachi. And all of these activists and leaders were arrested under 3 MPO, which is again a draconian law brought by the British Empire in the region. Pakistani state use this law against anyone that they feel, okay, this person, this activist, this leader is going to be a problem for the deep state, for the military establishment, for the people in power who are involved in war crimes. They use this in Bangladesh, and they recently used a 3 MPO against the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, who is still in the custody of the, I won't say Pakistani police, but Pakistani military, because he was chosen by them and then put behind the bars by them. But anyway, when these activists and leaders were arrested, the whole Balochistan was protesting. To curb the protests, they again, start targeting the protesters. They were all peaceful protesters. In retaliation to that, the Balochistan National Party, which is a political party from Balochistan National Party believes in the Pakistani parliament led by Sardar Akhtar Mengal, son of Sardar Ataullah Mengal, a veteran Baloch leader. They believe in the framework, and they were peacefully protesting. There was a long march which were led by Sardar Akhtar Mengal from Wad, his hometown, to Quetta, but they were forced to stop near Mastung because the Pakistani forces have put containers on the road, on the highways. There were a lot of obstacles and hurdles created. They were not allowed to go to Quetta, and after uh, 2 weeks or so, they had to end their sit-in in that area, and then they announced for further protests. But the Baloch Yakjehti Committee itself, what it is, how they're struggling, it is very important to understand. So in Balochistan from the 1948 up to now, the policy of Pakistani state has been very clear to to try every mean possible to curb the Baloch national movement, Baloch liberation struggle. If someone is asking for their independence, they are enemy of the state. If someone is asking their rights, they are enemy of the state. Even there are instances where in Pasni area of Balochistan, which is near the Gwadar city, there were protesters. In Jeevni, they were protesting for water in early 90s. They were killed, and in that protest, a young girl and her family members were killed. So it is clear for the Baloch people that no matter what you ask from the Pakistani state, they will target you. So in around it was about 2018 or so, the Baloch political scenario was totally different back then, because the Pakistani state has forced to the Baloch national movement, the party I am part of. We demand for the independence of Balochistan. Many leaders of Baloch national movement were killed, and a lot of us had to flee Balochistan, to come in exile, to continue our struggle here, because they put an unannounced ban on the Baloch national movement, Baloch student organization Azad, Baloch Republican Party. So there was no voice that can, resist against the Pakistani state on the political front. Of course, there are parties like BNP, as I mentioned, Balochistan National Party, who sometimes talk against the Pakistani establishment and the military, but they also do take part in the Pakistani politics. Well, coming back to the Baloch Yakjehti Committee, we all remember in Balochistan there was a death squad attacked a family house in Turbat, where a young girl was targeted, her mother was killed, Brahmsh, and she became a symbol in Balochistan. When this incident happened, a committee like a Yakjehti committee is kind of a united committee. So Brahms Yakjehti committee started protests from Turbat, and that escalated across Balochistan. And from there, another incident happened where a Baloch student, Hayat Baloch, was killed after Pakistani forces were attacked by the Baloch freedom fighters, the Sarmachars. Hayat Baloch was a student of Karachi University. He was dragged in front of his mother and father, and then he was killed in front of his family members. Around 11 bullets were shot on him. So that those incidents brought a light to the people, to the world, that whether you speak against the atrocities, whether or not, the Pakistani state is going to curb you again and again, no matter what you're doing, whether you're silent or you're active. And Dr. Mahrang Baloch, Sammi Deen Baloch, Sabiha Baloch, all of them, they're all politically active people. Sammi Deen Baloch is struggling since 2009, when her father was abducted by the Pakistani state. Uh, Sorry, I believe it would be 2011, when her father was 10 or 11. Dr. Deen Mohammad Baloch was abducted by the Pakistani state. And then she has been very active for the release of her father. Same Dr. Mahrang Baloch, her father, Ghaffar Lango Baloch, was abducted twice, and then his dead body was recovered. She protested for her father, and then her brother was abducted. She protested for her brother. Her brother was later on released. Dr. Mahrang Baloch has been very active in student politics. There was an incident in Balochistan in the universities where they put cameras in the female students' toilets, and they were very active against that. So this is a kind of an understanding of these activists, how they become part of this, activism, how they are leading. Now, Balochistan, as Aditya mentioned, I just want to do a minor correction there. The movement is led by the whole Baloch nation. It is not as such. Obviously, Balochistan is a tribal society, but is not a tribal movement in that way. It is a movement led by the Baloch nation across board. So there are obviously tribal chiefs were part of it. Nawab Khair Bakhsh Mari, undisputed leader of Baloch national liberation struggle. But at the minute, it is Dr. Mahrang Baloch who is leading the Baloch movement politically in the ground. It is even the if you see on the side of the militancy, the armed struggle, Bashir Zeb Baloch, the head of BLA, is a student. He was a student. He was a student leader. He was ex-chairman of Baloch student organization Azad. So is Dr. Allah Nizar Baloch. He was the chairman of Baloch student organization Azad. So the movement has changed its shape as well. The Baloch and the Pakistan relation is very clear. We are two separate nations. I know that the Pakistan used this. Well, it wasn't a theory by them. Obviously, it was the theory of their boss, like the Britain, the two-nation theory, which actually it is something that can be implemented in Balochistan. We are not culturally same. We don't share the same language. We don't share the same values. We don't share the same ideas of living. So this is something that the Baloch are saying from
Uh,
1948.
Mr.
And
Hakeem, may I request you to conclude?
Oh, yeah, sure. So, from 1948 up to now, the Baloch has been resisting against the Pakistani state, and the struggle will continue against the Pakistani state, and obviously any state that is supporting Pakistan, in that case, the China. Now, one thing I would just say to conclude, before I conclude this, I know that the Mr. Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, has openly announced from the Red Fort of Red Fort that he appreciated the support, the messages he was receiving from Balochistan, but unfortunately there's not been a diplomatic a policy or a foreign policy from India in the case of Balochistan. Pakistan has a very clear policy when it's come to India, when it's come to the Kashmir, when it's come to the issues where Pakistan can leverage, but India needs a foreign policy. India needs an ally in that region. Not only, obviously, I'm not saying Balochistan is a card to be played, but India need an ally if they want to survive, if they want to, end this terrorism, which unfortunate incident that happened in Pahalgam recently, or other incidents. So I would leave it with this note that the Baloch resistance will continue. Dr. Mahrang Baloch, Bibo Baloch, and other activists of Baloch Yakjehti Committee are in the are on the hunger strike in the prison cell of Pakistan. They're very strong, they're very brave, and the Baloch nation will continue to fight against this tyranny. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hakeem. You very appropriately brought out how the genuine protests are being ruthlessly curbed by Pakistani establishment, and how the Baloch nation, as you called it, and as I endorse it, is fighting for the freedom. And certainly, you need more support than pure words. That is what perhaps is a big takeaway. And I am sure that something like that would certainly be coming as we fight what the kind of hate speech of Munir, their army chief, is brewing, and rightly so, as you said, the Baluch and Pakistanis can't live together, is also an outflow of what he has spoken. So thank you very much. You mentioned in some manner the Chinese involvement, and all of us know that Chinese are there to exploit Balochistan. They have been exploiting Balochistan. They have launched the project of China, so-called China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. I call it China-Pakistan Exploitation Corridor. And in fact, to speak on this subject, we couldn't have had a better person than Mr. Burzin Wagmar, who is the Director General of China-Pakistan Exploitation Corridor. And he has been working He's a visiting fellow of uh, Royal United Service Institution of India, and this is the oldest think tank in the world. Let me also remind him that my institution, United Service Institute of India, is also an offshoot of that, and we happen to be the oldest think tank in Asia on strategic matters. Mr. Wagmar is based in School of Oriental and African Studies, SOAS, in London. He is jointly affiliated to Center of Iranian Studies, study on Pakistan, and South Asian Institute as well. He is also a senior fellow at Usana's Foundation India, and we couldn't have a better person than him to talk about the significance of this corridor in the geopolitical dynamics of South Asia. Over to you.
Good morning from London, and thank you very much, Major General Asthana, and to the Indic Researchers Forum for having me for this second day of proceedings. CPEC, Corridor to Nowhere. Writing in 1943 after a 4-hour meeting with Muhammad Ali Jinnah at his Delhi home, American diplomat and President Roosevelt's special representative William Phillips noted, quote, "The more I studied Mr. Jinnah's Pakistan, the less it appealed to me as the answer to India's communal problem, since to break India into two separate nations would weaken both and might open Pakistan, at least to the designs of ambitious neighbors," close quote. Sri Lankans, 5 to 6 years on, would ruefully concur in recent times about such, quote, ambitious neighbors, as we reflect on Pakistan generally and Balochistan particularly after 75 plus years. This disposition will consequently critique Pakistan's environmentally unsustainable, financially unfeasible, and politically uncertain growth and development. Almost 7 plus years on, since 3,218-kilometer China-Pakistan Economic Corridor was formally announced in April 2015, that much vaunted $62 billion package totaling 17% of Pakistan's GDP, it is not quite the game changer so many naively cheered on when 51 plus agreements and MOUs were initially signed worth $46 billion. CPEC's 4 components broadly are Gwadar Port of Balochistan, infrastructure development, energy projects, and industrial zones. Sinitic civilizational pride led to CPEC's inclusion in China's 13th five-year plan, 2016 to 2020, and designation as the flagship of its Belt and Road investment, namely China's Marshall Plan, putatively worth $1 trillion involving 140 countries, and approximately 7 times more than what the US spent in post-45 Europe's recovery. Since 2002, insurgency-racked Balochistan, where a royally rigged election was arranged in which 65% votes cast were bogus in 2008, has not had a day's peace as the deep state continues its, quote, pick up and dump routine, leading to forced disappearances and subsequent discovery by distraught relatives of mutilated corpses weeks or months later. Bereaved Balochis are long used to locating cadavers of missing kin stuffed with human feces, according to both Baloch and Pakistan human rights NGOs, and it has been adequately and grimly documented in recent years. There is no precedent for it anywhere in the Muslim world, certainly not in either Palestine or Kashmir, insurgencies which typically enrage Muslims, but who are less irate about inter-Muslim murderous mendacity. The stunning silence of Pakistanis, and Muslims for that matter, vindicates the sordid truism of their selectively animated outrage. Palestinians and Kashmiris during the last 80 plus years have never reported anything so repulsive meted out by non-Muslim security forces, Indian or Israeli, as feces-filled, maimed victims. Islamabad would never chastise Beijing for prohibiting Uyghur Muslims, university students, and civil service officials from fasting or force-feeding them pork, especially in Ramadan, the holiest month in the Islamic calendar. Former Prime Minister Imran Khan, when challenged, batted it back to his Al Jazeera interviewer claiming, "I don't know much about the Uyghur problem," close quote. So it was timely of The Economist to point out in a survey of India and Pakistan at 70, namely this, and I quote, "Whereas India's men in uniform face intense scrutiny in Kashmir, Pakistan enjoys a far freer hand in trying to stamp out terrorism along its northwest frontier. Its army has demolished whole villages. Balochistan, a province of rugged deserts that takes up 43% of Pakistan's area, has been in sporadic revolt since independence. One local NGO estimates the number of suspected separatists kidnapped by security forces there from the high hundreds up to 18,000. In 2016 alone, 728 people across Pakistan suffered enforced disappearance, as counted by the Commission of Inquiry that investigates them. Some reappear alive and well, others as roadside corpses, but the state flatly denies any unpleasantness." Close quote. Zohra Yusuf, chairman of the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, 2011 to 2013 and 2014 to 2016, categorically rubbished Provincial Home Minister Sarfraz Bhakti's attribution of the murdering of minorities to the, quote, "unspecified and nefarious goals of R&AW, Indian intelligence, and NDS, Afghan intelligence," and she unequivocally stated, quote, "that there are sufficient grounds to believe that the unrest is taking place under the patronage of state elements, and that the acts are being carried out in order to give a religious coloring to separatist movements in the restive province for the benefit of the international community," close quote. The army's ability, as American scholar Christine Fair percipiently points out, to intervene in Pakistan's governance without immediate public outrage stems from its assumption, well rehearsed in public, that it is the preeminent guardian not only of Pakistan's foreign and domestic interests, but also of the nation's ideology, variously constructed. So it was precisely that what occurred, ladies and gentlemen, in February 2018, when a Financial Times scoop in London revealed how the then Chinese ambassador to Pakistan, Yao Jing, enthused that Baloch militants were no longer a threat to the CPEC. An anonymous Pakistani official concomitantly confirmed that covert talks had taken place for over 5 years in a third location abroad. The write-up in the FT noted tellingly how no Pakistani officials were privy to what was deliberated or provisionally assented bilaterally between the Balochis and Beijing. The Chinese could have taken actually a cue from old Raj hands in London, namely, honor the Baloch and buy the Pashtun, because Baloch separatists within a year audaciously admitted attacking Karachi's Chinese consulate in November 2018. And China remains privately wary of Pakistan's ability, never mind sincerity, to rein in Muslim militants, whether Pakistani, Afghan or Uyghur, who threaten its regional interests and domestic security. It has questions Islamabad's sincerity. And Mohan Guruswamy, an Indian participant at Track 2 roundtable talks, recounts how the Chinese court were in full agreement with the Indian discussants that several militant groups now seem to be acting independently of even the ISI and even the Pakistani military, close quote. As for the provinces, what of peripheral ones such as the NWFP, renamed Khyber Pakhtunkhwa in April 2010, and Balochistan, who have justifiably alleged that the Punjab will benefit disproportionately if CPEC is supposed to harmonize development in a sectarian, poorly governed, unequitable fissiparous society, then one must inquire how Balochistan, a thinly populated province with a marked dearth of literate, skilled, gender-balanced labor on low-income levels, will benefit, because internal migration predictably disrupts the condition of the local labor force and compounds resentment and alienation. One of Pakistan's more empathic observers, Anatole Levin, rightly observed, quote, "Radical Baloch nationalists see their nation almost as the Red Indians of the American West in the middle of the 19th century. Their territory dotted with mining camps and patches of alien settlement guarded by the forces of the US cavalry and in imminent danger of ethnic swamping and extension. It is true, however, that they have been dealt a rather poor hand by modern history and that they have not generally been treated with a vision or generosity by Pakistan governments," close quote. What is the CPEC if not to guarantee China a consistent flow of oil and gas and overcome its, quote, Malacca dilemma? 60% of its international trade and 85% of its hydrocarbon imports from Iran and the Gulf to Shanghai perforce pass through the pirate-infested narrow Straits of Malacca, choke point in Southeast Asia. Gwadar, 400 kilometers from the Strait of Hormuz, reduces that 16,000 kilometer journey lasting 2 to 3 months by 5,000 kilometers. And Gwadar has been leased for 43 years to the Chinese, and as Mir Hasil Bizenjo, a recently deceased Pakistani State Minister of Maritime Affairs, pointed out, revenues earned from Gwadar only to the tune of 9% will be accrued by Balochistan, with 91% going to China. It remains underutilized since 2007, a white elephant like Sri Lanka's Hambantota port. CPEC will dump on Pakistan unsustainable industries. That is embedded in its long-term objective of developing Western China's rest of Xinjiang province and offloading its surplus output on external markets such as Pakistan, secure shipping lanes to consolidate its burgeoning hydrocarbon requirements, and obtain in the final analysis strategic physical assets from states with vulnerable economies such as Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Laos to be leveraged for Chinese power projection and potential military use in the future. Djibouti is already a People's Liberation Army Navy planned base in the Indian Ocean, and Gwadar could be mobilized in the future, according to a fearful India already counting body bags of troops on its eastern front in ongoing border clashes with Beijing since 2017. Pakistani bellicosity, it would appear, is not just restricted to India. A retired Pakistani general menaced, quote, if the Chinese want to use Gwadar for military activities in the Indian Ocean or to attack Taiwan, they can use it. It certainly vindicates the garrison state modus operandi of Pakistan's military custodians who have leveraged its strategic environment during and after the Cold War to flaunt their political indispensability. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your analytical view and an exhaustive view as to how China-Pakistan exploitation corridor, I will keep repeating my word, has been exploiting the people of Pakistan and serving no major purpose as far as Chinese are concerned other than the strategic part of it. Incidentally, this was also the subject of my doctorate. So let me add a pie worth of analysis to that as well. Firstly, if a unit trade has to pass through Malacca Strait, it is almost 8 times cheaper than if it has to pass through CPEC and reach the eastern border of China. And therefore, it does not have any economic value. It only has a strategic value. Secondly, when we talk of exploitation, all the money which Chinese have put so far, most of it is on energy. And that energy is being exported to Xinjiang because Pakistanis can't afford the energy which Chinese have produced. It's so costly. That's number one. So Chinese are actually trying to, and they are quite hesitant in putting more money now. And they are also looking at options of getting the warm water access from Afghanistan because they are fed up of Pakistan military's assurances that your guys will not be killed. 23 of them have been killed so far. So I don't think Pakistani military is in control of the security of these people. Gwadar, obviously, they need a strategic spot on the mouth of the Gulf. So that will continue even if it is not economical. Because if it was not economical for Singaporeans who were managing the port earlier, it can't be economical for China too. So that is the kind of exploitation which Chinese are doing. But Chinese are also quite apprehensive, as you rightly brought out in your talk as well. So thank you very much for extremely, shall I say, analytical analysis, which was quite educated.
Might
Now,
I add, Major, just one more point. From a particular to a general induction, in that you mentioned about Gwadar as a white elephant, and of course it makes no sense transporting gas pipelines from Pakistan's southern littoral all the way to the north, running through the entire country. Well, then that should lead us also then to question, and quite rightly so, the Karakoram highways feasibility, it has also been not exactly a white elephant like Guada is, but utterly underutilized because it's closed during the winter months as the world's highest international metal road highway. And it was simply flaunting Sino-Pak friendship and more to do with geostrategy when it was constructed between 1966 and opened finally in 1982 at immense cost and human cost at that of so many lives lost. And it is open, and of course it's flaunted as a showpiece, but it remains for all practical purposes and intents underutilized to nearly 40 years on.
Absolutely, absolutely. You're absolutely right. So now we move on to the next one.
Sir,
We see that Baloch people are facing state-sponsored discrimination, not only in Pakistan, but perhaps in Iran too. So we have Mr.
sorry to interrupt. I think Mr. Reza has still not joined. Mr. Reza, if you're here, kindly unmute yourself.
Mr. Raza, are you there?
Okay, sir. I think he's not there. So in the meantime, we can have Mr. Mohim and Lalit, sir, and we can probably have him later if he joins.
Okay. Is Mr. Mohim Baloch there? No?
Yes, sir. He's there.
Yeah, yes, I'm here.
Okay, okay. So I think let's take on the topic and continue with the same from the Baloch part of it before we come to the Indian part, and my friend Lalit winds up the whole discussion. See, we understand the atrocities of Baloch people resulting into enforced disappearance, human rights violations, and the direct impact is the Baloch nationalism. The nationalism of Baloch is at the strongest ebb, and I, in some manner, as a military man, see some footprints and some remembrances of what was happening in Bangladesh, then East Pakistan, prior to 1971. So now to speak on this, we have Mr. Mohim Baloch Sarkhosh. He's a Swedish Baloch, holds an MBA degree in economics as well as cyber security engineer, working with chief information security officer. He's the leader of Balochistan National Party, and we couldn't have had a better person than him to throw light on this subject. So over to you, Mr. Mohim Baloch.
Thank you very much, General. Good day to all respected participants, fellow speakers, and our distinguished season chair, Major General Shashi Asthana. And first, I would like to thank Mr. Yasha Arya and the Indic Researchers Forum for inviting me to this important conference. Let me start with the historical background of the Baloch struggle. Balochistan was an independent state for centuries at a time under the protection of British India. When the British were forced to leave the Indian subcontinent, they sought to destabilize the region by encouraging Muslims to form a separate state. This led to the creation of the terrorist state of Pakistan. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who had once served as the legal representative for the Khan of Kalat, the ruler of Balochistan, betrayed his client. Despite Balochistan declaring independence after the British withdrawal, Jinnah, with the support of the British, moved to forcefully incorporate Balochistan into Pakistan. Since then, Balochistan, the largest yet most marginalized province of Pakistan, has endured more than 70 years of neglect, militarization, and exploitation, now with help of China. Though rich in natural resources, the region remains one of the poorest and least developed in the country. The Baloch people have long fought to gain their independence, but instead of responding with dialogue or development, the Pakistani state has relied on brute force, especially since the early 20s, when the resistance re-emerged with new strength. One of the most terrifying tools of the state's crackdown has been enforced disappearances. Since the occupation and subsequent forcible annexation of Balochistan in 1948, the region has been caught in a relentless, relentless cycle of violent repression, economic marginalization, cultural erasure. Among the most disturbing tools of Pakistan's repression is its kill and dump policy, a cold, systematic practice of abducting Baloch activists, subjecting them to torture, executing them extrajudicially, and dumping their bodies in remote areas. This policy is not only an open violation of even known human rights standards, but also a form of state terrorism. In recent decades, several mass graves have been discovered across Balochistan, in Khozdar, in Darabukti, and many other places, and containing bodies of disappeared individuals. Many were lost in the custody of Pakistani security forces. There is no official acknowledgement, no justice, only silence and state-backed terror. Human rights organizations estimate that thousands of Baloch activists, students, journalists, and even children have been abducted by Pakistan security forces, always without warrants or any legal proceedings. Many are never seen again. Some are found dead, their bodies bearing clear signs of torture. Families are left in limbo, caught between hope and despair, often for years. Uh, the violence knows no borders. Karima Baloch, a prominent human rights activist, fled to Canada after receiving repeated threats. In 2020, her body was found in Toronto under suspicious circumstances. Also, local authorities ruled out foul play. Activists and experts believe her death was orchestrated by Pakistani Inter-Service Intelligence (ISI). Karima had become a powerful symbol of the Baloch struggle. Her assassination sent a chilling message to all dissidents. You are not safe, not even in exile. Both the Pakistani and Iranian states have been accused of backing transnational terror networks that target political opponents of ethnic Baloch abroad. Similarly, in Sweden, Sajid Hussein Baloch, another voice for justice and a journalist, was found dead under mysterious circumstances. Again, the Baloch diaspora suspects the hand of the Pakistani intelligence services. This targeted killing form part of a transnational repression strategy of Pakistan. In the face of these atrocities, Baloch civil society, particularly its youth and women, has shown remarkable courage. Among them, three young women and victims of state terrorists, Dr. Mahrang Baloch, Samidin Muhammad Baloch, and Bibo Baloch stand out among hundreds of others as powerful symbols of nonviolent resistance and tireless advocates for human rights. Dr. Mahrang's activism began after her father, a political activist, was abducted and killed. Instead of um, uh, succumbing to silence or fear, she turned her pain into a powerful movement. Through marches, hunger strikes, and relentless media engagement, she has drawn attention to the plight of the Baloch people, not only within Pakistan but across the world. Her leadership represents a shift, a new generation of Baloch, especially women, stepping into the arena of resistance, rejecting violence and demanding justice through peaceful means. Most recently, on March 22, 2025, during a peaceful protest in Quetta organized by the Baloch Yakjehti Committee, Dr. Mahrang Baloch was arrested by Pakistani security forces along with over a dozen fellow organizers, including her close colleagues Sami Din Baloch and Bibo Baloch. The protests turned deadly when authorities opened fire on demonstrators, killing several civilians, including two children. Following this state-led massacre, Pakistan's intelligence agency ISI reportedly removed the bodies of the victims from the scene. In a disturbing twist, they later accused Dr. Mahrang Baloch of orchestrating the violence, an apparent attempt to deflect blame, criminalize peaceful activism, and silence a leading voice for justice. Dr. Mahrang Baloch remains in detention to this day, held in Huda district jail without due process or access to her legal team. Her, her continued imprisonment is not only a violation of her rights, but a stark symbol of Pakistan's depression to silence dissent. Despite this, Dr. Mahrang has received international recognition. In March 2025, she was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. And in October 2024, she was named among the BBC's 100 most influential women in the world. These accolades are not merely honors, they are an acknowledgement of the dignity, resolve, and humanity she represents. The intent of her arrest is clear: to silence the Baloch voice before it reaches the world. Uh, on, on, under uh, uh, Dr. Mahrang Baloch led a long march from Balochistan to Islamabad for a couple of months ago, a historic act of nonviolence defiance. Protesters, hundreds of protesters walking for days to demand justice, visibility, and accountability from the very institutions that seek to erase them. A call to the global conscience. The Baloch people are not asking for charity. They are demanding accountability. Enforced disappearances are war crimes. Extrajudicial killing are war crimes. Cross-border assassination are violation of international law. And yet, the global response remains disturbingly muted. Uh, it is time for international institutions and regional powers, um, for United Nations, for USA, for England, for India to move beyond rhetoric. Palestine should not remain the blind spot of global consistence. Uh, Supporting the civil movement is not only a strategic necessity, but a moral imperative. Final word. Let us be clear. The situation in Iranian occupied Balochistan is no better than in the Pakistani occupied region. The Iranian kleptocratic regime continues its brutal campaign against the Baloch people. In just the past 2 weeks, more than 20 Baloch individuals have been executed by Iranian authorities. These state-sponsored killings are part of a broader pattern of systematic repression, ethnic persecution, and enforced silence. From Quetta to Zaidan, the Baloch are being crushed under two occupying regimes that share a common goal: to erase Baloch identity, dignity, and resistance. But as, his, but as history teaches us, truth and justice are resilient forces. We Baloch people are determined that sooner or later we will win our independence from both Pakistan and Iran, unnatural states created by British colonial engineering. These regimes are colonial powers, and we Baloch are the colonized subjects. Just as every Western colony eventually won its freedom, we too will reclaim ours. That is our goal. Pakistan and Iran are artificial, multinational states collections of nations with no shared history, forcibly bound on the centralized role. Like Yugoslavia and Soviet Union, these states will eventually fracture. This thing, this integration is inevitable. And when that day comes, the Baloch nation will rise again, free and sovereign. To conclude, I say this: the Pakistan and Iran states may bury the bodies, but it cannot bury the truth. As long as the spirit of Karima, Sajid, Mahrang Baloch, and others, whether in flesh or in memory, the truth will rise and Balochistan will gain its independence one day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Sarkhosh. A lot of eye-opening revelations which you gave. And also, I must thank you for covering the plight of Baluchis in Iran also, in absence of the other panelists. So I think you gave a very comprehensive coverage of Baluchis and their movement and the determination, which you very eloquently brought out at the end. So thank you very much. Now, having got the glimpse of Balochistan crisis and to evaluate the responses of international community and India's role in regional stability, we have Mr. Lalit Ambardar. Are you there, Lalit? Lalit, are you there? Lalit?
Yeah, sir, I'm here. General, sir, I'm here.
Okay, fine. Mr. Lalit Ambardar is a Delhi-based renowned security and current affairs analyst. He's a prominent TV commentator. He is also a columnist, and he has been writing for columns for various leading daily newspapers of India. He's a program coordinator for foreign TVs and radio bureaus, and he writes on Kashmir, where he was born. A civil engineer by profession, involved in Silk Route tourism and associated with World Tourism Organization. A lot of talents packed into one personality, I must say. So, and of course, we have been sharing screen a number of times too. So over to you. There is a question in chat box by Vaishnavi, where she says, how significant is the role of external influences or support in sustaining Balochi movement? So I'm sure you will answer, your portion will answer this as well. So over to you.
Thank you, General, sir. It's always my privilege to share screen space with you, sir. Thank you very much. It's so encouraging. Thank you very much. So motivating. So I think let me start with caution that I'm not a scholar of Balochistan as such. I'm not a history student. Although I'm a history student, I don't specifically would not like to get into details because there are experts who have dwelled so deeply into it. But as a commentator, I would like to share my thoughts on this subject. First of all, let me tell my Baloch friends, whenever I get an opportunity, I confront the Pakistanis. In fact, it was only yesterday or this day before yesterday on a platform I showed them the mirror as far as Balochistan is concerned. And first thing first, I would request my Baloch friends, the freedom fighters, to it's my advice. I don't know. I'm sure they have an ideology that they're pursuing this suicide squad, Majid suicide squad, in targeting Pakistani establishment. But giving a reference, it's not to discourage you. It's just to tell you the positive aspects of a freedom movement. This suicide squads was started by LTTE. In Sri Lanka. Look what the fate of LTT it culminated in. And it was also simultaneously taken up by Palestinians. See what they are in today. And I feel so motivated when I see the women coming into such in the forefront, like the Baloch women are coming forward. And but it's disheartening that they have joined the Fidayeen squad or suicide squad, because many it also does not gel well with the public opinion, because many try to not knowing the history, they try to connect Majid with some Islamic mythology or Islamic figure. So therefore, please channelize your energies positively. And for inspiration, for example, I say the Kurd women, Peshmerga women, who took the might of barbarian ISIs first in the Middle East, not in the Middle, in the world. They were the first one to take the challenge of ISI's barbarian, and they stormed Syria. So therefore, I request you, please give up on suicide squads. And as far as the international sport is concerned, let's talk briefly about the history. Look, there's a lot of similarity in the Indian context between what Balochistan suffered and what Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir state of India is suffering till date. Both were princely states, and both signed and standstill agreement with Pakistan, and both exercised the option that was in the Independence of India Act, that India, J&K signed an instrument of accession, and Balochistan announced freedom, independence. And both were invaded by Pakistan simultaneously, almost simultaneously, Kashmir as well as Balochistan. And I don't know how far it is true, but they say even Khan of Connaught was in Delhi. He tried to persuade the then Nehruvian Congress, to allow Balochistan to be part of Indian Federation, but we refused. And they say this Khan of Connaught took that private flight he had come in straight to Karachi and went to Pakistan radio and announced accession with Pakistan. So that is, I think, I blame my people, then Nehruvian Congress, that allowed Eastern Pakistan to come into existence thousands of kilometers apart. But we abandoned Balochistan, and we also abandoned Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan's Awami National Party, the Pakhtuns, who were still called as Congresses in Western Frontier Province. So I think there is our betrayal too. And then, of course, what generally is said about a nation. Pakistan is not like Mr. Mohim was talking about. You can't put nationalities together and create a country, and giving an example of Yugoslavia and Soviet Union. But I think it's not a right comparison, because they were ideologically driven, both Soviet Union and Yugoslavia. But in the context of Pakistan was inspired by two-nation theory. Sayyid Ahmed Khan's two-nation theory, Muhammad Iqbal's two-nation theory, Muhammad Jinnah's two-nation theory of exclusivity and incompatibility of Islam. That's when on 14th of August 1947, millions of Indians, they betrayed their motherland in the name of Islam and created Pakistan, which was midwifed by Imperial Britain. And it had strategic importance for them. But the consolidation, I warn everybody, because people said it was a conspiracy of Britain to create even to let Balochistan be part of Pakistan, as well as to creation of Pakistan in the first instance. But no, the consolidation in the context of Pakistan of Muslim opinion, Muslim voice, was at the behest of so-called secular apologists within the Congress at that time in pre-independence. So in a sense, it was an Balochistan which has history, which has nationality, which has culture. It's very unique. I always try to draw a comparison with Balochistan with Kurdistan. Kurd is similarly a social, completely secular entity, as is Balochistan, but spread into various countries. Kurdistan is in many countries. Balochistan is basically Iran and in Pakistan, and in both the countries they are being persecuted. I call the Balochistan situation double O. O for occupation, O for oppression. And oppression is not simple. It's not just simple persecution. It's not simple genocidal persecution. You have to understand what are the genocidal methods applied to keep the people of Balochistan under oppression. And I'm sure many Baloch would talk about it. I want you to talk about it. People say women are raped. The oppressors rape the women of the occupied territory. But in Balochistan, even male children are raped by Pakistani army. That has to be highlighted. You use chemical weapons against your own people. That's happening in Balochistan. And then at the same time, you steal the whole wealth that belongs to the people of Balochistan. So therefore, in that situation, Balochistan movement is unique. It is secular. And I appreciate and salute the people of Balochistan. The day on the 7th of October, when Hamas and Islamic Jihad of Palestine invaded Israel, Baloch came in the forefront and standing in support of Israel. That is what a nationality is. That's what a history is. That's what the civilizational aspects of a nation is. Unlike Pakistan, which has become, I was yesterday on a television channel, I said, I was telling Pakistan has become today pilgrimage center for Hamas, pilgrimage center for ISIS, pilgrimage center for it was already for Al-Qaeda and other Islamic jihad movements around the globe. So therefore, we have to understand, and wherever I have the possibility as a commentator, I always take up this point on behalf of the Indian nation, that my country, the government should come forward and openly support Balochistan, not because we have to we want Pakistan to implode. Yes, we want Pakistan to implode, but I say it's a historical baggage we are carrying. We betrayed the people of Balochistan, that we agreed that time, gave recognition when Pakistan occupied Balochistan. But don't only think about your people, your Balochistan being recognized as a part of Pakistan. We allowed our own Kashmir, a huge territory of Kashmir, to remain under Pakistani occupation. Gilgit-Baltistan, our strategic link to Central Asia via Afghanistan, we allowed it to fall in the hands of Pakistan. First time in the history of military sciences that a marching, winning army was asked to stop by then Nehru and Congress, because we wanted to pursue peace with Pakistan, and pursuing peace with an artificially created geopolitical entity is like pursuing mirage. That's what is coming forward. Therefore, at every forum, we want we go to you, Balochistan. Balochistan must be taken up. In fact, I've been openly saying that Balochistan should have a government in exile, and India should come forward to host this government of Balochistan, free Balochistan in Delhi, and we should do it. We should not hesitate, because as it's also becoming very dangerous in the sense, as Pakistan's hold on Pakistan, the ISI's hold on Pakistan is decreasing day by day. They are becoming more aggressive in terms of inflicting injuries on India as well as on their own people, and they will go to any extent. They will go to any extent to mobilize the people of Pakistan in the name of Islam, in the name of Kashmir, and also in the name of Islam, to keep Balochistan under subjugation, to only consolidated Muslim opinion in the favor of GHQ or Rawalpindi. So they can go to any extent to do that, and they will go to any extent to show to the people in the rest of Pakistan, especially what Pakistan is actually, the Punjab Pakistan, to tell them the Baloch are rebels, Baloch are terrorists. And also through you, I want to appeal to every participant here. Baloch are not rebels. Baloch are not militants. Baloch are not terrorists. Baloch are freedom fighters. That's what we should call them. And Pakistanis are not only terrorists, they are jihadists. And there's a difference between a jihadist and a terrorist that we need to understand. So therefore, I will, through General Sir here, because he's in our think tank, very close to the state, I want this message should go to the government, that it's not I repeat, it's not just because we have to damage Pakistan. We want the Pakistan to be disintegrated, so that Pakistan the armies hold on Pakistan's lesson. It is because we owe it to people of Balochistan. We owe to it. They deserve freedom, and then it will be geographically, strategically for world peace, that you have a secular democracy flourishing in that part of the world where you have Balochistan strategically placed. And also, a brief on about China. I think the kind of population you are, I salute you guys. Just 5% of the total population of Pakistan is the owner of 45% of the total land mass of Pakistan, and you are giving such a tough fight to Pakistani barbarians, and they're not soldiers. They're not professional soldiers. They're trained professionally, but they behave as non-professional soldiers every time. When they invaded India via Kargil, they disowned their own North Light Infantry people. Then they're not our people. It's our professional army. We recommended the Gallantry Award for one of their soldiers who had we called him a martyr, who was martyr fighting Indian army on those over those arduous Himalayan heights. And after 6 months, they recognized, yes, it was the Northern Light Infantry who participated in that war. Similarly, Baloch regiment has been participating in wars against India. I'm sure one day will come the Baloch people who are in Balochistan army, they will rebel against Rawalpindi GHQ and stand in support of Balochistan. Thank you. I wish you all the best. I wish you all the success. There are a lot many other speakers going to speak. If anybody has any questions, I'm ready here. I am here with you. General sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your concerns, your sentiments, your messages, and your overall presentation of the subject and the role and certain expectations which have not been met in past, and certain historical wrongs which have been created earlier. We have some time. We will talk about. We will take on some questions as well. But before that, I must highlight few issues and which emerged, and I think they need to be put in context. Now, the first issue is regarding as to what was the strategic game played by British and why things are the way they are. See, when in 1947, two-nation theory, everybody knows, everybody talks about it, everybody knows what Jinnah did, and everybody knows what Nehru did, and the politics of that kind. But parallel exercise was that Americans and British, they wanted to checkmate USSR. They knew that a joint India will be too difficult to be perhaps maneuvered for their strategic game. So they thought that there is a piece of land which is strategically important, which comprises of Gilgit-Baltistan and the present land of Pakistan, as well as perhaps Balochistan adjoining Iran and things like that, because Iran had been an old civilization. And they thought that if we carve out a land like this into a country and include them in CETO and CENTO, we may be benefited in checkmating USSR, because that was the aim at that point of time. And all these areas are adjoining a USSR which extended to Central Asian republics at that point of time. Now, how it played on ground? We were fighting Pakistanis who invaded Kashmir. The commander-in-chief in both sides, in Pakistan side and Indian side, were British. Our political leadership did not had Indian commander-in-chief. Now, and they were both reporting to another British commander-in-chief. So with the result, what was happening was, it was something like a war game being played on a sand model. So when we reached a stage, we had enough forces and we wanted to take back POK and then the remaining portion of the Jammu and Kashmir. At that point of time, they did two things. One, the garrison commander in Ladakh, he was asked to officer. He surrendered to Pakistan Army. And he was given the highest gallantry award by Pakistan as well as British for doing this, technically and professionally. This is what is the biggest cowardice act for which a person must be court-martialed. But he did the things the other way around. Secondly, General Karepa was very keen. We just used 2 to 3 divisions in that area. We had 8 of them at that point of time. We were not short of forces. So we were stopped by these set of gentlemen who were directing the war, and somehow they convinced our political hierarchy at that point of time. Same is the case with the story of when Pakistan raided Balochistan. They had the tacit understanding of the British. So it was a design which was created to checkmate USSR on one side and Iran on the other side, because Iran was a monarchy perhaps at that point of time. So considering all this, this design was, and our politicians as well as Pakistani politicians and Jinnah, who had his own ambition, they all played to the gallery. And of course, the other factors are also there. I'm not discounting any other factor which everybody has brought out and which is part of the history. So that's one part of it. Second thing which I want to share with everybody is, this is the age of social media. And in this age, I think all of us are connected in some manner or the other. The disgruntlement should not be suffered in silence. And with that, if I may say that all of you can certainly, all people who are involved with the freedom fight of Balochistan, they must reach out to everyone. And there are many platforms. And I think this is an initiative of holding a discussion like this is certainly very welcome. Now, let me talk about a few questions here. There was a question regarding, the Arab world and the Middle East with the USA are destroying the freedom of Balochistan and Kurdistan. I think this is a question from Mr. Faisal. Before I direct this question to Mr. Mohim Baloch, I must add 2 things. That I think in Middle East, USA is meddling certainly, but Kurdistan is being their freedom is being destroyed by Turkey and not USA. That's number 1. And as far as destroying the freedom of Balochistan is concerned, the Middle East and USA, I think it is more with to do with the Pakistan, number 1, and China, number 2, because Chinese are looking at the mineral wealth of Balochistan, which is very rich in gas, oil, coal, sulfur, fluoride, gold, etc., etc. So with such a huge concentration of minerals, Chinese were attracted, and that is why this project did go through. That's a separate issue, that now Chinese think that the security situation may not let them exploit such kind of resources. So these are the 2 entities I think are more concerned. Rest I will leave it for Mr. Mohim Baloch to answer the remaining part of the question. Are you there? Mr. Mohim, are you there? Okay, any of the panelists can take it on. Mr. Hakeem, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you very much.
Will you like to take it on?
Yeah, sure. So I actually saw that question from Faisal. I believe, of course, as you mentioned, the situation in when it's come to Kurdistan and Pakistan, the countries are to be blamed are the occupying forces, as well as I would say the international powers. Now, Middle Eastern countries, most of them, if you're referring to them, they like the 5, I would say, powerful countries in sense of the mineral wealth. They would not meddle in anyone else's. Let's say their foreign policy is based solely on good relationships. Even when we see countries like Qatar, that we see that they do hold talks between the Afghan Taliban and the United States, but they always try to act as a peacemaker, as a deal maker. Now, I understand the Middle East has Bahrain and UAE, they have their own issues with them. But when it's come to the Balochistan, I personally have no clue, like how to be honest, answer that question, particularly mentioning, the countries of obviously the Arab countries of the Middle East. But USA has a big responsibility, and these countries being the regional, countries with wealth, with sharing a history with Balochistan. The people of Balochistan, a huge number of Baloch people live in Oman, a huge number of Baloch people live in UAE, a huge number of Baloch people live in Bahrain, and same as in the Qatar, and same as in the Saudi Arabia. So of course, we expect from them to act in support, in favor of the Baloch movement, and they should speak with Pakistan, not just in terms of telling them about what they are doing in Balochistan, the violations that are taking place in Balochistan, but they should also stop them doing such atrocities. Now, the second thing is, see, one thing, because as Mr. Lalit was speaking about, obviously, historical context, there we have also heard that the Khan was in Delhi and he talked about, merger, but it has not been confirmed somehow historically. But yes, India do have a responsibility. What happens, happens. That's past. You cannot change that. That history. But in today's world, in the regional context, I believe India is the strongest power. It is growing even stronger day by day, be it economically, be it, military-wise. India is the largest democracy. So, as a brother nation sharing history with India, our hopes are that India will, and as I said in my own talk, that India should have a foreign policy that should include Balochistan, be it the government in exile, it can be anything. So yeah, we are looking to that. But of course, Faisal has his views, but I personally believe the people to be blamed are historically the Great Britain, United States, as you mentioned, Major Saab, that the idea was to obviously stop USSR and they were successful somehow in the Cold War, and then the region was cut into small pieces. Balochistan suffered, divided into three parts. We did not mention that Balochistan is also a part of Balochistan is in Afghanistan, where people, where situations are different. People are not suffering as Mr. Sarkhosh mentioned. The plight of Baloch in Western Balochistan and obviously in the Eastern Balochistan. So that's really the situation which we are at the minute. Thank you.
Okay,
I would like to come in here as a historian.
Mr. Wagmar, would you like to add the context
yes, I do.
Iran and the Middle East context?
Yes, not just Iran, actually, Major General. I would like to talk as someone who grew up in Bahrain for the first 22 years of my life. And to answer Mr. Baloch's question of why the GCC states are silent, well, I'm afraid that is going to be the case. None of them are ever going to challenge or confront Pakistan on a question of human rights of Balochistan, for the simple reason that the Baloch constitute security and police forces in all the GCC states. The regular constables and inspector and sub-inspector levels that I saw at my police station down the road from my residence in Manama were mostly Baloch men as such. And you have the Baloch also in the regular armies, not on secondment from Pakistan, but actually Baloches who have been naturalized as Bahraini, Emirati, Omani, Kuwaiti citizens, who are, and Oman, of course, remember, owned Gwadar enclave until the late 50s when it leased, returned it back to Pakistan, which is another matter. None of these states would want to upset the apple cart with Pakistan, which has in more ways than one undergirded the security of the rulers of all these GCC sheikdoms. So they're never going to question Pakistan of what it does or doesn't do in Balochistan because of the equation where the Balochis are absorbed in their forces. They have a regular fodder of security men for their own personal security and for the stability of their states, which are fragile regimes, against their own local dissidents, that they can use these Baloch as fodder as such. And that is precisely what's happening in Bahrain, Major Asthana, for the simple reason that with a Shia population majority and a Sunni minority of the Caliphs ruling, you find so many Pakistanis have been given Bahraini citizenship. And it's difficult to get citizenship in the GCC. You're only there as laborers and expatriate workers, but so many have been absorbed in order to tilt the demography of the region, particularly in Bahrain. And of course, it has created a lot of unrest with the local Arab Shia population. In Oman too, it's not so much of a case, but in Saudi Arabia, of course, they've also been naturalized and taken. So at no point is ever there going to be objection on the part of the GCC states against Balochistan or the Pakistan question. That will never happen, because they will not want to upset their security relationship with Pakistan, which has undergirded their surety for so many decades. And Mr. Ramadar pointed out about Bangladesh and linking it with the Balochistan question. I need to come in here as a historian, point this out, and put paid these stereotypical notions of India trying to dismantle Pakistan or Balochistan and this, that, and the other. Consider the facts. When the problem of the pogroms started in East Pakistan in March 71, Indira Gandhi's knee-jerk reaction was, I don't want this headache on my doorstep, and we cannot have a balkanized Pakistan. She was not gloating at the fact that Pakistan had issues and problems. Please note, India had nothing to do with it. It was a local problem and due to local factors, and India was petrified that it would have spillover effects, which indeed it did. So what happened then when Pakistanis questioned as to why the Mukti Bahini and others were supported? Well, for the simple reason that after Indira visited the camps and saw the rape victims, this was about from June and July 71 onwards, when Siddharth Shankar Ray, as governor of West Bengal, showed her what happened. Something in her snapped, which led Major Asthana to her first meeting with General Manik Shah, that Sam, we've got to do something about it. From March to July, India's position was do nothing. That needs to be pointed out. It only changed after July, when India felt that something needs to be done on a humanitarian level, because it is going to impinge on our security. So the question that India always wanted to unravel Pakistan is complete nonsense. I wanted to put that on record. Thank you.
Okay, now let me, since I happen to have met General Sam Manekshaw and have worked a lot on this 1971 war, so let me put some more things in context. Whenever a country takes a decision to intervene or otherwise, or to help out or intervene on somebody's invitation, or to normalize a situation or an atrocity, there have to be a whole lot of considerations. And some of the considerations why India reacted at that point of time was the atrocities was one part of it. The second part was the refugees inflow into India, which was unaffordable for India, because we were not a very good economy at that point of time ourselves. So Americans, now, as you rightly mentioned, that not very many countries are going to question Pakistan on many issues. We also faced a strategic reasons, which I just brought out when I spoke last. Pakistan has been a darling of West and has been left out for all the nonsense which they create for various reasons, because everybody had an interest. Americans wanted that piece of land because it is strategically important to do anything in Afghanistan. Logistically, there is no other way. They have to maintain their ground logistic columns through Karachi. So they helped Pakistan. Why Pakistan became so strong? Again, the Americans and the Westerns and later the Chinese have started helping them. The reason being, at that point of time, I recall one of the American ambassador I had a conversation with, that why are you giving them F-16 and saying that this is a fight against terrorism when you know that F-16 can only be used against India? He said, these guys are supporting us in Afghanistan. Now they say that our problem is a threat from India. And we have to balance out that threat from India and give them confidence that India will not attack you. And therefore, they need to be helped elsewhere. Now, that elsewhere was the flow of weapons which came to them. So that is how they became strong. And now the problem is most of the countries, whether it is Iran or it is Saudi Arabia, at some point of time, they have an intention in mind that if somebody can give them nuclear technology, there is only one Islamic bomb, and that is with Pakistan. And if somebody wants an Islamic bomb in some manner or the other, they place. That's number one. Number two, a lot of investment has been done by Chinese too, because Chinese have some other intentions. They want to dominate Gulf. They also want to keep India under control, and therefore they need to have a flow of weapons there. Now, with this flow of weapons and fair amount of investment on Pakistan army of these two countries, these two major P5 powers, Pakistan army has become strong and has also become arrogant to think that they can do what they want. And that is why all these atrocities are going unpunished. And that is how we are now, in fact, reasonably determined that the center of gravity of all our operations has to be Pakistan army. All these terrorists who are getting inside, they are all pawns and operators. It means nothing to, you can kill as many of them, but that won't help unless a cost has to be paid by Pakistan army. So you will find in times to come, bulk of the Indian responses will hit Pakistan army and their equation vis-a-vis Pakistan population and Pakistan, other elements in Pakistan, to tell them that this is a rogue army, terrorist army, and this army is creating all the problems for you, and therefore earlier you denounce their power, better it is. That's one part of it. So I'll leave it at that. The second issue is, I think there is one more question that is regarding the indicators of potential major escalation in Balochistan conflict and how will India prepare for such a scenario. Yes, there are indicators, whether it was Jafar Express incident, whether it was IED blast earlier, and whether it is BLA and TTP getting stronger, and whether it is targeted killing of Pakistan military. You can see the signs of escalation. You can also see the signs of the freedom struggle. So I think I have no doubts that this struggle, the freedom struggle, will increase. Now, if we compare the same situation with Bangladesh and then East Pakistan, there were two major differences which came up. The major difference, one major difference was the population of Bangladesh, number one. So population also gives you a lot of strength. And a lot of atrocities were caused, as has been caused in Balochistan as well. But the second major portion was the leadership of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. All the efforts of freedom have to be galvanized and synergized under a very strong leadership. So we need a very strong leadership there, as well as, of course, a boosting of strength and power and all other things which need to be boosted up. Now there are many actions which the countries can take. How should India prepare for such a scenario? Obviously, India is preparing for many scenarios now after this attack, which has happened in Pahalgam, a terror attack, a brutal terror attack. And there are many options available to us, but it will not be appropriate for me to be speaking that on television. But be rest assured that India is preparing for all kinds of scenarios. And indirectly, I must hint to say that if Bangladesh can be divided in two in 1971, when they stepped on our national security, there is no way that it cannot be repeated again. And many actions which they have taken, whether foolishly or with the knee-jerk reaction, or whether they have hit the foot on the axe or whatever, they have disregarded the Simla agreement, which I interpret as no line of control. So if there is no line of control, it's a matter of time and opportunity and decision by the political leadership. I don't think there is any bar left for us to walk into POK whenever, because there is no line of control as far as this announcement is concerned. If Simla Agreement stands abrogated. That's one part of it. But whether it will happen, not happen, we will leave it to speculations because these are too sensitive matters to be spoken on television. But then the fact is, the implication by which whatever is there in the open domain, the moment you abrogate Simla Agreement, obviously there is no line of control. That's another issue. So India is preparing. There are a whole lot of options. When countries do a power play, there are overt options, there are covert options, there are a whole lot of options. Be rest assured that India is certainly very sensitive to the problem and atrocities being caused in Balochistan. And if Prime Minister at some point of time did make a mention and subsequently should the situation arrive, maybe that some more actions can also be taken. Any more questions, anybody? I think I have answered all the questions in the chat box. Yeah, I think there is last question.
I have answered some of them as well for people who put out questions. I hope
Okay,
that's
okay.
satisfactory to them.
I think there is one question there in now. Indic Research Forum. Given India's investment in Chabahar port and strategic interest in Iran, can we afford to have Balochistan officially as part of policy, foreign policy? Probably should we promote civil society interaction between Baloch and Indian society? I don't think there is any problem in civil society interaction between Baloch and Indian society. I don't think so. And people are interacting. I don't visualize that there is any problem. I don't think, is there any Baloch activist who ever faced a problem of visa in coming to India? Please let me know if there is anyone. I don't
Major,
think so.
I've answered that question because the question impinges on Chabahar port, which is Iran's province of Sistan or Balochistan.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you will notice my comments there. And
Okay,
I
okay.
pointed out that India will be wary of actually questioning Tehran on its treatment of its own Sunni minorities in Balochistan, because obviously India takes a non-interfering approach. So I do not see that happening to the question put by the Researchers Forum. And of course, as you know, Khamenei has felt quite entitled to make questions about Kashmir and the so-called plight of Kashmiris after August 2019, and he sees fit to interfere in India's matters. India has never interfered in Iran's matters, and for that matter, Balochistan, Sistan of Balochistan is Iran's only Sunni majority province, and the Sunni minority in question there does feel the heel of Tehran, of what is an unabashedly Shia regime since '79 that does discriminate against them overtly and covertly. But India will not want to interfere and bring up questions of how Iran treats its minorities. It never has done so as such. So I don't see Chabahar being linked with India questioning Tehran for its aspects of Balochistan. That is not happening at all.
Okay, I agree with you. See, the policy of India, stated policy of India is we do not interfere in anybody's internal matters and nobody should interfere in internal matters of India. That is a stated policy, and you would have seen our policy has been reasonably consistent, whether it was Russia, Ukraine, whether it was any other. I mean, we supported Palestine, and their embassy continues to be with us, and we also have reasonably good relations with Israel too. So you will find that India's approach of non-interference in other countries, that has been a foreign policy, that has been one of the essentials of a foreign policy in India. But notwithstanding that, the question is that Pakistan army as of now, the overall strategic aim after this terror attack is that we have to show Pakistan army its place. How we do it, I will leave it to the imagination. I won't talk more about it. I think Indian army should have a Baloch regiment after the government of Balochistan in exile said. I think we have enough guys for 10 vacancies. There are 10,000 people applying in Indian army. So I think we have enough of our own soldiers as of now. And therefore, I don't think India is looking at a Baloch regiment by any stretch of imagination. The securitization, polarization of Balochistan took a turn. This Mr. Pandey turned to the worst turned for the worst towards the people since the dissolution of FATA and integration of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa? Is there a possibility that the dissolution created a demographic imbalance and opened gates for larger state repression in region? Also in sectarian pipeline from Tehreek-e-Taliban and Lashkar-e-Jhangvi in Balochistan used as sacrificial bait to increase militarization in Baloch region. Is this a question or a comment? Mr. Pandey, you want to ask something specific?
Yes, sir. Hi. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you are.
Right. So, sir, I basically wanted to know if the dissolution of after the dissolution of FATA, there was a demographic imbalance between ethnic minorities who filtered in from the ex-FATA region into Balochistan, and this integration was used as a pawn mechanism to increase the presence of military in the region. So, what I wanted to ask was, how did the sectarian pipeline, that is from Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan and Lashkar-e-Jhangvi, have been dealt with by the Pakistani center military? Does it connote to worsening the situation in Balochistan, or has it helped overall?
Will any Baloch speaker like to respond to it, Mr. Hakeem?
Uh, Thank you. Sorry, I'm just want to confirm. You're talking about the Gilgit-Baltistan or the Balochistan here from the ex-FATA
No, he's talking
region?
about Balochistan. In exodus from FATA to
Yeah.
Balochistan.
Okay. See, I'm not really an expert on the topic, but what I can say is obviously the way the Lashkar and the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, I don't think they have at the moment there is like inclusivity between the Lashkar-e-Jhangvi and the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. Historically, what we have seen, all of the groups were obviously played at the hands of the Pakistani army, at the behest of the Pakistani army. But in recent past, what we have seen after the situation in Afghanistan, the TTP is attacking the Pakistani army in a manner which they have not in the past. Now, obviously, and again, going back into them regions, be it the former FATA or in the region of Balochistan, there is a lot of, I would say, religious extremism that has been brought by the state. Now, the situation in Balochistan, where I would say that you mentioned, the demographics, change in the demographics. One of the biggest concern for the people of Balochistan is that what Pakistan is doing with CPEC, that they're bringing a large number of Punjabi national. This was actually a plan. I'm not sure at the minute how successful they are, because obviously the reports are, sorry, even the Chinese investors and the Chinese engineers are living in a very secured area at the minute. They are limited what they are doing, how much they are roaming outside. But the plan was to bring a demographic change, specifically in Gwadar, the region which is, as the Pakistan call it, is strategically important for the CPEC. But on the other hand, the Baloch knows this is the red line for us. The Baloch Liberation Army, BLF, the Baloch political parties have made it very clear with their political and armed resistance that they are not going to let a single inch of Balochistan to go to China or to be exploited by the Pakistani army in that manner.
Thank you. I think we have overshot our time. So now all it remains for me is to sincerely convey my heartfelt appreciations to all the eminent speakers. Thank you all for your time, intellect, and conscience. Thank you very much. It was a very interactive discussion, very educative discussion, and I enjoyed very much. I'm sure others would have. Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.